All right, good morning. How's everyone doing? Karibuni sana. Welcome to another episode of the Forex Daily Analysis. This beautiful 22nd day of August, the day the Lord has made. We will rejoice and be glad in it. And of course, make pips. Hopefully not lose any money today, but we're really glad that you could join us. John Bogo is my name. I'm a trader with Afriforex. Afriforex is a trading unit, so it's not a one-man show. So we also do have Mitch. He is working here in the back office. So in case you do have any questions, feel free to ask them both on the Q&A section and also on the chat box, which will be getting back to you. But I will also be looking at the questions more specifically in the Q&A section, but towards the very end of the session. So feel free still to ask your questions, even as the webinar does end up progressing on. Of course, for the guys who are joining us here on Zoom, for the guys joining us on YouTube, if you want to interact with us, then make sure that you do join us. There should be a link in the video description that should guide you here. So we're going to jump straight into it. So as always, we'll start off by looking at what we did have on the charts yesterday in comparison to today. So you can see the watch list for today right there, a couple of changes. So feel free to take note of that. You can see the Australian dollar and the New Zealand dollar have switched sides with the Canadian dollar. So we'll be having or looking at the currency pairs that we did have yesterday that unfortunately did not make it to our watch list before we look at what the charts do have to offer today. So the first one, this is the Australian dollar against the US dollar. For us, this one, yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. You can see the three regions right there that I had pointed out in terms of where we could look for our buying opportunities. And in the morning, when we're looking at the charts, price was somewhere within this region. So at around 9:10, I pointed out that you could find that the market could come back in within here. Some good buying opportunities were definitely hiding within here. You can see that the market came back in during the London session, during the US session, a bit of a struggle, before the buyers could put their stuff together, before they could actually push the market to the upside. But you can see that from around 4:30 or thereabouts, the market did actually end up starting to move to the upside. Definitely did need to manage your trade high up within that region there. And of course, that's definitely something we discussed yesterday. But unfortunately for us for today, not really a currency pair that we will be trying to see whether we can get some trading opportunities on. So the next one, this is the New Zealand dollar against the US dollar. For us, this one yesterday, we're also trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. You can see the three regions right there that I had pointed out. In the morning, when we're looking at the charts, price was somewhere within this region here. And I pointed out that there was a possibility price was going to come back in within this area. You can see that it just slightly just tapped this region a number of times, just the top of that area. Remember, we always talk about SNR being a region. It's not necessarily a price. So in as much as, yeah, we're watching out for this price, but it's generally somewhere within this area. I wanted to see the price come back in within there, but you can see that the market was just tapping, within that area before it moved to the upside. But generally, you can see that the buys did generally end up working out during the US session. So during the London session and the Asian session, we're on that pullback phase. Then during the Asian session, that's when the market did move to the upside. So moving on into the next one, which we had yesterday, that unfortunately we do not have today. This is the Great British Pound against the Canadian dollar. So for us on this one yesterday, we were trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. You can see the three regions right there that I had pointed out: aggressive, conservative, semi-aggressive, conservative, somewhere within here. In the morning when we're looking at the charts, price was somewhere within this region here. And I had pointed out that in as much as you could look for the buys within this area, you can see that during the London session, the market did actually start to move to the upside quite aggressively. But, we always talk about wait for that pullback coming back in. There was a possibility the market was going to spike to the downside. And I illustrated that. And I told you that in case the market does end up coming in lower, there's a possibility price was going to come back in within this region or maybe lower before actually moving to the upside. And you can see that's exactly what the market did. And it actually held within this region right here during the US session. The market completely took off to the upside. So this right here is a trade that I did end up taking yesterday. So I got the buy somewhere down within this area right here. I got a 1:3.8. Wasn't really the best of entries, but I didn't also want to end up risking the whole aspect of being left out. Remember the previous day, I'd been left out on this one. So somewhere within this area here, I was trying to get a much better entry and the market took off to the upside. So yesterday's trade wasn't too bad. Could have gotten the entry a bit much lower, but also didn't really want to end up running the risk of being left like I had been left the last 2 days. And also the day before that, remember the New Zealand dollar against the Canadian dollar had also left me. So at least yesterday I did end up catching this one. This showed the markets who's boss. But anyway, let's not get too cocky before we get humbled today. So unfortunately for us, for today, this is not a currency pair that we're going to be watching out for. But at least yesterday did give a good buying opportunity. So the next one, this is the Canadian dollar against the Japanese yen. So for us, this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some selling opportunities. You can't clearly see the three regions right there that I had pointed out. Aggressive conservative, semi-aggressive conservative here. In the morning when we're looking at the charts, price was just coming in within this area. I did point out that maybe you could have found the market giving some sort of a probe within this area. Of course, this move coming to the upside, not entirely unanticipated, because remember we also had this level and you had pointed out that there was a possibility price was going to come back in within that region. So this must have been a major stop out for very many people. But of course, for guys who are timing sales higher up within here, the market did definitely, most probably need to come back in within that region. And it did tap within that area, came back in. But of course, even if you got the sales somewhere within this region, you know, at around 4:30 or thereabout, you know, during the New York Stock Exchange open, you can still see that after the market came back into the downside, held within there, still could have gotten some selling opportunities there. Even if you are stopped out on the first attempt, let's say even if you had your stops there, these things happen on the charts, and you know you should never really take them personally. You know, when the market stops you out, it's just doing its thing. You know, don't take it personally. Sometimes I know you feel like you're the only one who's losing, but trust me, there are millions of traders across the globe who are also losing. But it's just a matter of always keeping your mind in the game. So the next one, this is the euro against the Canadian dollar. So for us, this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buys. Clearly can't see the three regions right there that I had pointed out. And in the morning, when we're looking at the charts, price was somewhere within this region coming up. And I did point out that don't really look for some buying opportunities, especially in the market comes up too close within that region. You are better off within here. Unfortunately, you can't see that within this region, the buyers were not really there. Like we couldn't see a sign of the big boy buyers coming in. The market came in lower. They needed a much better price. And remember, we talked about, you know, there's a possibility price was going to come back in within this region. Based on the story of what was happening on the bigger time frame, there was a probability and a possibility price was going to come back in within that region. And it did, although quite fast. You can see that the market just tapped in within this region after that, completely took off to the upside. But definitely could have also been a buy somewhere within this region. Unfortunately, I missed out on that buy, but I'd really read the story, knew that a buy was going to happen within here. Fortunately, I missed out on it and that market completely took off to the upside. But it's okay. Today's another day. We don't feel bad about it. Today's another day, so we're definitely going to get some more opportunities and possibly even better opportunities today. So last but not least, we do have the Canadian dollar against the Swiss franc. So for us on this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some sales. You can't clearly see the three regions right there. But I had pointed out in the morning, when we're looking at the charts, the market was somewhere around here. And I pointed out that the best sales were somewhere within there. And you can see that it just needed some patience. The market came up within this region quite aggressively. The buyers slowed down. They attempted to go to the upside, couldn't. Market came back in. Look at that pullback. Of course, definitely some entries within there to definitely end up coming down. So this one was also a good one. But unfortunately for us, for today, not really a currency pair that we'll be trying to see whether we can get some trading opportunities. So we're going to look at one screenshot we did end up getting. This one is from Alan Rono, if you're here, or if you're watching from YouTube, or if you're going to watch this later, then shout out to you. But this was good. This was on the Great British Pound against the US dollar. So I can see you got a good buying opportunity somewhere within this region, especially if you got it on the pullback, then this was really good. And of course, once the market started to move in your favor, bringing the stop loss above break even, you know, just making sure that you secure your profits, or at least secure your money rather. So this was really good. So shout out to you for that. This is a very good and a big improvement compared to the other trades we had seen earlier. And that's the reason why we always tell guys to send in their screenshots. You know, we're also happy to see your progress and your progression. So shout out to you, Alan Rono, for that. And of course, keep up the good work. So guys, remember, if you do get any trades, whether good or bad, we're not here to judge. We're just here to celebrate your wins and also help you out best way we can. So if you do get any trades, feel free to send them in to us. Our contact details should be there on the chat box. Definitely can also end up reaching out to us, in case of anything, and we can see how best we can end up helping you using the same contact details. Also, feel free to send us, your criticism, whether positive or negative, where you think we can improve, what you think we're not doing right. Also, give us credit if you think there's something that we're also doing right. Using the same contact details and ask guys, we'd definitely be more than happy to hear from you. So, shifting matters into things today, you can see right there, August the 22nd. This is what our watch list is going to be looking like for today. So hopefully you can end up taking note of that. On the fundamental front today, remember today is going to be a day where we have so many news events that are going to be coming out. So you can see that a lot of activity we're going to be expecting during the London session, quite a number of euros and GBPs. You can see right there during the US session. Of course, today being Thursday, we do have the usual initial jobless claims that's going to be coming out. Could expect something on the USD and also the Jackson Hole Symposium that is going to be starting off or kicking off today until Saturday. So we should expect hopefully some moves on the charts, not only the USDs, but across the board. Maybe even the moves that we saw yesterday on the cards and the spikes and everything could be something to do, the pre-run or the run-up to the Jackson Hole Symposium. So we'll wait and see what does end up happening, but I would also end up advising guys, don't really leave any trades open over the weekend. There's a possibility you could find some crazy gaps on Monday. So, you never really know what these guys could end up discussing during the symposium, especially on Saturday. You could end up finding that the effects on Monday morning, the charts could be having some really wide gaps, and you don't want to really end up getting caught up in that nonsense. So just make sure that you do watch out for that. So I guess we can get started on our currency pairs for today. So we'll mix and match up the USDs with everything on the buy side, the AUDs, then the New Zealand dollar with everything on the buy side, finish off with the commodities and the indices, as we always do. So first one off the line, the Great British Pound against the US dollar. So for us, this one, yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. Good to see that Alan did also end up getting a buy on this one, did manage it, and actually, hopefully if you're holding on to it, then that's good. So these are the three areas that we did end up having. In the morning, when we're looking at the charts, price was somewhere within this region right here, in the middle of these two regions here. So we wanted to get the price coming back in within here. And of course, when the market started to move to the upside, I pointed out that it wasn't a good time to look for the buys high up within there. You can see that the market came back in within here, held for a bit, although you did need to read that story on a smaller time frame, just to get those buys. But even if you missed out on that, when the market broke above this region to the upside, you can see the pullback and the hold within there. And you can see even the signs of rejection, showing that the buyers were still in the game. And you can see that they did actually push the market to the upside. So for us, for today, these are the three areas we will be watching out for. So hopefully you can end up taking note of these three regions right here. So aggressive down within this area, conservative at the top. Don't end up looking for the buying opportunities right now. This is, to some extent, could be a massive probe and the market is holding. So this could be true SNR, within this region right here. So you could find that unless the market breaks above this area to the upside and actually holds above this region. And of course, if you get the buys here, definitely just make sure that you first target somewhere within this region right here, even if you're going to be targeting much, much higher. So just make sure that you watch out for that, but also watch out for this area. You could find the market reacting off there, could come back in within here. You could find that maybe the market could be on the pullback phase, maybe during the London session, during the US session. We'll just have to wait and see. If we get the market back in here at around 4:30, you could execute some buys there, maybe somewhere down within this region. If the buyers do need that price, then at least we should also be ready for that. But also watch out for this region. You could find the market break to the upside, and maybe it could be sitting above this SNR, at around those times, especially during the US session. Then at least at that point in time, you could definitely look for the buys. But my best hope would be that the market does end up coming down. At least that will end up inviting, the opposite party to end up coming in. And of course, we definitely want some good pullback so that we can execute our trades. So moving on into the next one. This is the US dollar against the Japanese yen. So this is also a currency pair we had yesterday, watching out for selling opportunities. You can see the three areas right there that I had pointed out. In the morning, when we're looking at the charts, price was somewhere within this area here. So I had pointed out that hopefully we do get the market attempting to break above this area to the upside, come back in and hold. we could actually end up looking for some selling opportunities. That's exactly what the market did, but you can't see that there was that extra spike that happened. There was a possibility we knew that the market was maybe going to come back in within here, and it did. You can see that the market just spiked up within that region. So even if you did execute selling opportunities within here, stops above there, you did get stopped out. At least when the market came back in, you could have attempted, a second attempt within this region to come down. Definitely didn't need to manage within this region right here. So for us for today, we're still going to be watching out to see whether we can get some sells on this one. So do watch out for these three areas right here. Same areas that we did have yesterday. The market hasn't really moved far and beyond, the area that we had pointed out yesterday. To some extent, maybe you could find it getting into some sort of a range. Definitely, we do not want to be looking for some sells, especially when the market is down within here, unless the market breaks to the downside and holds. It had broken yesterday, but you can definitely see that the market couldn't hold to the downside. This region right here, the market came back up, which tells us that support region is still holding. So the best thing to do is to actually wait and see. We can get the market coming back in somewhere within here. And there's a high probability that price could be coming back in, within this region right here. That's definitely the best area where you can get some good selling opportunities. So let's wait and see what happens. But of course, if the market breaks and holds beneath this region to the downside, then I guess at that point in time, we could look for those more conservative selling opportunities. So do watch out for those three areas right there. Sleep possibility today, price might come back in within here, especially considering the fact that it did tap within that area and already did end up reacting off it. But in case it does need that price, then at least we will definitely be ready for it. Remember, I was pointing out, I think yesterday, it's better to have something and not need it rather than, later on end up needing something and unfortunately you don't have it. So you're much better off being ready for that level. If the market shows up within that area, then at least that's a good area to look for some sales. If the market breaks above that region to the upside, then unfortunately there will be no trade for us unless the market comes back to the downside. So the next one, this is the euro against the US dollar. For us yesterday on this one, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buys. You can see the three regions that I had pointed out and also an illustration of what to expect. In the morning when we're looking at the charts, price was somewhere within here. And you can see that the market did end up playing some sort of a ping pong game within these two levels right here before it broke to the upside. So you can see that at 3, price was back in within the bars region, went up. First attempt couldn't go up higher than that. Second attempt, the market definitely needed a much better price than this. It did end up doing that. Maybe these bars within here. And you can see that off this area during the New York Stock Exchange Open, that's when the market did actually end up breaking off this region to the upside. So for us, for today on this one, these are the three areas that we will be watching out for. So we do have the conservative region right at the top. Let's see if we can end up maybe pulling back slightly lower, back in within this region right here. Because if we can come in as close as possible within this area right here, then the better for us in terms of looking for those buying opportunities. So let's see if we can get the market coming back in somewhere as close as possible within here. There's a high probability price could come back in within there. Reason being, and the market broke above this region to the upside yesterday. You can see that the market didn't actually end up retesting back within this area. So there's a probability and a high possibility that the market could actually end up coming back in within here. If it does, then at least we should be ready for that. And also do watch out for this region at the bottom right here, where the buyers did actually start their move to push to the upside. So there's a possibility if price comes back in within there, then we should be good. But high probability, we will be coming back in within this region. So let me just set an alert there. Hopefully we can get a nice slowdown. The sellers, when they do come back in, within this region right here, tap that area, see some sort of a fight rollover phase, end up finding the market maybe somewhere within here at around 3,430. After it does that whole rollover phase, then hopefully you could get some good buying opportunities within this area to go up, maybe even to come back in and challenge, this guy at the top right there. But you'll definitely need to make sure that you manage your trade within this true SNR, which is somewhere within that region. So hopefully you take a note of that. Remember the red SNR, in case the market breaks and holds beneath that region to the downside, then unfortunately there will be no trade for us. So the next USD currency pair that we have is the US dollar against the Swiss franc. So for us on this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some sells. You can clearly see the three regions right there that I had pointed out. And in the morning, when we're looking at the charts, price was somewhere within this area. Pointed out that you don't really want to look for your sells when the price is just holding above this area. You can see that the buyers did react during the London session, push the market just shy of this area right here. But you can see that there was a real fight that was going on. Maybe there was a true SNR, maybe just below it, somewhere within this area, just couldn't get in within that area like would have expected. But you can see that off that area, the market did turn to the downside and did continue coming down, especially all through the US session yesterday. So for us for today, these are the three areas we will be watching out for. So we do have the aggressive, somewhere within here, still a possibility that the market could come back in within that area, especially considering the fact that yesterday price couldn't tap this region quite well. So if it does end up needing a much better price, there's a possibility you will find the market squarely back in within that area right there. So watch out for that. Watch out for this region at the bottom. But right now, our best bet is definitely within this region because you can't see that the market broke to the downside. Hopefully, if it does come back in for some sort of a retest within there, then we could get some selling opportunities within there. But right now, don't really end up looking for the sells in as much as the market looks like it's coming down. But also remember, there's some sort of an SNR within this region because it looks like maybe the market probed came back in. So even if I put a minor level within this area right here, if you end up hitting your sells within there, then you're selling where there are buyers, and that's not the way things work. So it's possibly better to wait and see if you could get the market breaking beneath this region to the downside. If it does end up breaking beneath here to the downside of this region, then at that point in time, I guess we can end up looking for sales if we do get the confirmation. Because also trying to get the sales, you could end up squeezing yourself within this region and it could end up becoming a bit frustrating, only for you to actually end up getting stopped out because you might find that the market might need to end up going up higher, for the sellers to end up regrouping before they end up having another go at it. And you could easily end up getting stopped out. So let's wait and see. I'll definitely be keeping my eyes out for this level right there. I think the best selling opportunities could be hiding somewhere within that region. So the last USD pair that we do have is the US dollar against the Canadian dollar. So this one, we're going to be trying to see whether we can get some selling opportunities, new entrant on our watch list. So we're going to be watching out for these three areas. Similar situation to the other one that we've seen. Market has come back in within a region of support. Let's wait and see if we can get a breach to the downside and a hold. Then at least we can resume with the sales. But right now, we'll give the buyers the benefit of doubt. You can't see that they've reacted before, given some sort of a double bottom within this area right here. So you never know if it's going to become a triple bottom, whereby the market actually bounces off this region even more aggressively than it did the previous time. So we'll just have to wait and see. But definitely, right now, based on the situation and the scenario that we're seeing, the best selling opportunities are definitely looking like they're somewhere within here. So you could find that during the London session, price could be on the pullback phase. Then maybe during the US session, that's when you find that the market could actually end up coming down. But at least even if you get the sell here and you do manage your trade within this region, this is going to be quite a decent trade, especially based on where you end up putting your stop loss. It's about 22 pips. But of course, if you're a real sniper on the charts, then definitely you can get your stops quite tight and you still can get a proper risk to reward on this trade. But also remember the region at the top, in case the buyers, or the sellers do actually end up needing that price, looking for that much better price, then at least we can also be ready for that. There's a possibility price can also come back in within that region. So do watch out for that. So that's pretty much it in terms of the USD pairs. So we've mixed and matched them up with everything on the buy side. So right now we're going to move on to the AUDs. So we're going to start off with the Great British Pound against the Australian dollar. So this is a new entrant on our watch list, and we're going to be trying to see whether we can get some buying opportunities. So these are the three areas I will be watching out to see whether I can get some buys, and also areas where I can manage my trades. Right now, the market is on the pullback phase, which is good. Let's see if we can get the sellers coming back in and pushing the market back in within this region. And hopefully we do get the buyers now starting to show up. Then you could find that maybe during the London session, the market could actually end up lifting off this region to the upside. Definitely watch out for that region. You will need to manage your trade there. And of course, if the market breaks above here, then we could possibly end up trying to see, whether we can get some more conservative buying opportunities. But also do watch out for this region. If the buyers within here don't really end up reacting, then there's a possibility they will need this price. And if they do, then at least I will be ready for that region right there. So the next one, this is the Australian dollar against the Japanese yen. Also a new entrant on our watch list. So we're going to be watching out to see whether we can get some selling opportunities on this one. So these are the three areas that we're going to be watching out for. Also, this one, you can see that the market is on the pullback, coming back in. let's see if we can get the market coming back in somewhere as close as possible within here. There's a possibility it could, especially looking at how the buyers are coming up. They're coming up quite aggressively. So I can't doubt whether they're going to get back in within here. But what I would like to see is, them really starting to slow down within this area. Maybe they might attempt to take out that seller right there. If they can't, and the sellers do actually retaliate and push the market to the downside and we get a hold, then I think at that point in time, we could possibly end up seeing something like that. You could find that maybe after the market gets some better prices, might even end up attempting to take out these buyers. You can see that they've really held here, yesterday during the US session and today during the Asian session. So they could possibly end up getting taken out, especially if those sellers do end up regrouping within this area right here. But right now, the buyers are coming up aggressive. So I'll definitely wait and see if we can get some proper rollover phase, for this one within there to possibly end up coming down. But also do watch out for this region at the top. Could find that the market could come back in within that region. I'm sure that you've seen even with the rest of the year, it's even like this one, the market did end up spiking up quite to the upside quite aggressively. So it's possible. If the big boys do need a particular price, they will definitely go for it. So just make sure that you're also always aware of that and always keep an open mind when it comes to trading. So the next one, this is the euro against the Australian dollar. So this is a new entrant on our watch list. So for us on this one, we're going to be trying to see whether we can get some buying opportunities. So hopefully you can end up taking note of these three areas right here. You can see that also this one is on the pullback phase. And since we're seeing the pullbacks coming in on the three AUDs we've looked at, that should already tell you that there's some correlation in as much as the AUDs are concerned, because it tells you that the big boys are possibly pushing in the same direction on all of them. So you can see that this one is on the pullback phase. The market is coming down. Let's see what happens within here. Hopefully we can get the market slowing down. Within this area, there's a possibility price could even tap within this region here, come back into the upside hole. And after that, you could find that maybe the buyers could really kick in. These buyers who pushed the market to the upside yesterday during the Asian session, during the US session, today during the Asian session, might end up coming back in, during the London session or maybe during the US session. So let's wait and see what happens. But of course, this one is definitely coming back in within a good region. Just make sure that you watch out for the correlation amongst the AUDs. When one is turning around, you possibly could end up looking at the others, and just by using correlation, you could get a handful of pips on the AUDs. But even if you do not, at least it will give you the confidence to know that the one that you want to take is fully backed by the big boys, and they're definitely going to get the job done for you. So the next one, this is the Australian dollar against the Swiss franc, new entrant on our watch list as well. We're going to be trying to see whether we can get some sells. So these are the three areas we will be watching out for. Right now, this one hasn't really pulled back that far. Possibly could also end up telling us that the Swiss franc is also quite strong. So it's not really giving the AUD much of a chance like we've seen on the others, whereby the pullbacks are actually happening. But let's see if we can get the market coming back in somewhere as close as possible within here. If the AUD can really fight, to get the market back in within here, then I think there could be some good selling opportunities that could be hiding, somewhere within this area here. But if that doesn't end up happening, then don't end up looking for sales within here. I wouldn't look for sales within this region unless the market breaks to the downside. If it does, then on the pullback, then we could possibly end up trying to see whether we could get some sales. But you can see that the market is also trending quite well. You can see like it broke to the downside, came back in within there, good sales within there, broke to the downside of this region. Somewhere within this region, you can see that the sales did end up working out of that area. So we'll just have to wait and see. If the sales do end up happening off here, I don't really think it would be a good idea to squeeze yourself within this region right here. So you're better off getting the sales higher up. So personally, I'll be waiting for the sales higher up. And of course, remember, in case the sellers do end up getting tired, because you can also see that their pushes are also becoming smaller and smaller, could also end up pointing to the fact that the sellers are possibly becoming weaker, and maybe the buyers need to come in. Maybe that will give the sellers a fresh pair of legs to end up running even further. So possibly you could also find the market coming back in within that region. But right now, all eyes are definitely at this region right here. So I will be watching out to see what happens within that area there. So the next one, and the last AUD, this is the Australian dollar against the Canadian dollar. So for us, on this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. You can't see the three regions that I had pointed out right there. So aggressive conservative, semi-aggressive conservative here. In the morning when we're looking at the charts, price was somewhere within this area at around 910. I did point out that it wasn't a good area to look for the buying opportunities, so close within that ceiling. And you can see that the sellers did end up reacting, push the market to the downside within here. And you can see that there was a real fight that was going on within this region. So it's the sellers who came back in and pushed the market back in within this region, and the buyers who are holding the market, within this area. And you can see that the fight was quite intense, within this region. Sometimes the buyers look like they were showing up. The sellers did seem like they were coming in. Buyers showed up with this one. But unfortunately, the market just bounced off this area, came back into the downside and held within here. So unfortunately for us yesterday, this one wasn't really a clear one. And you can see that today during the Asian session, the market has come to the downside. But definitely something to do with AUD weakness that is being seen across the board. So for us, for today on this one, we're going to be trying to go the other way. So buys are off. We're going to be trying to see whether we can get some sells. So these are the three areas we will be watching out for. In the morning, looking at the charts, price was somewhere within this region. We're looking at the charts with the team, and the market has come back in within this region. We did expect that to happen. So right now, it's just a matter of waiting to see if we can actually end up getting the sellers showing up within this area right here, then that would be good. But you also could find that maybe the market might actually end up attempting, because the buyers have come up aggressive. Maybe they might end up having to put up a last fight, attempting to break above this region to the upside. If that doesn't happen and the market actually comes back in and holds to the downside, this will definitely be a good sell to calm down, back into within this region right here. And we're looking at about 20 pips, not bad for the first leg. Then, of course, if we do break beneath this region to the downside, you could find that the market could actually end up coming in much, much lower. So you could find that if we break that region to the downside, there's a possibility you could even find the market back in within this region here. Maybe I'm back in within this area, because the day the market broke above this area to the upside, which was last week on Friday, you can see that the market never really pulled back in for some sort of a retest within that area. So you could find that maybe the big boys could be eyeing that price, back down within this area. I mean, if we do get the sales higher up and we build, our trades as we continue coming down to within here, then I think that should be fine. So make sure that you do watch out for that. Also remember the red SNR. In case the sellers do need that price, at least we should be ready for that. But in case the market breaks and holds above that region to the upside, then unfortunately there will be no trade for us on the Australian dollar against the Canadian dollar. So that's pretty much it for the AUDs. So right now we're going to move on to the last set of currency pairs, which are going to be the NZDs. So we're going to mix and match up the New Zealand dollar with everything on the buy side. So we'll start off with the Great British Pound against the New Zealand dollar. So this is a new entrant on our watch list. So we're going to be watching out to see whether we can get some buys. So hopefully you can end up taking note of these three regions right here. You can see that the market has already pulled back in. There's some good correlation that's happening, especially amongst the New Zealand dollars pairs and the Australian dollar pairs. It's not also uncommon. It happens most of the time. I mean, they're more or less in the same region. And of course, they end up being active within the same session. So you can see that this one almost to some extent looks like, I think the Australian dollar or the Great British Pound against the Australian dollar to some extent. You can see that there's some correlation that's happening. So for this one, you could find that even when it starts to lift, maybe even the others, especially the AUDs, might also end up doing a similar thing. So you could also end up watching out for that. So these are the three areas we will be watching out for. And the one when we're looking at the charts with the team price was somewhere within there. We did expect price to come back in within here. It's back in within there. Let's see if we can possibly end up getting the market lifting off this region, especially during the London session, which is just around the corner. So let's see if the big boys are going to show up. Definitely a good area to look for the buys, but make sure that you do manage your trades somewhere within that region. If the buyers do end up struggling to lift off this area, then you could find that the market might end up attempting to come in lower, maybe tap in within regions within here. Maybe stop out even early buyers, before the market actually makes a move to the upside. But also watch out for this region right here. There's a possibility price can also come back in within there. If the big boys do need it, then at least we will also be ready for that. So the next one, this is the Great British Pound against the Japanese yen. So for us on this one, also a new entrant, we will be watching out to see whether we can get some selling opportunities on this one. So these are the three areas we will be watching out for. Right now, the market has just bounced off this area right here. And you can see that the buyers have come in quite aggressive. So let's see if they can possibly push the market back all the way till within this region here. I mean, if we do find the market within there at around 3,430, then that would be good. Could find some good sales to come down. And of course, the higher up, the better. It gives us more room to play with to the downside. So, I mean, even if we're going to be managing within there, possibly end up looking for more entries within that region to end up coming down all the way till within this region here. So do watch out for that. But of course, considering the fact that the market looks like it's in some sort of a range within this area, definitely we know the best area to look for the sells is always the top of the range. So all eyes should definitely be on this region right here. This is definitely the best area to look for the sells. But remember, if the market breaks and holds above that area to the upside, then unfortunately for us, at that point in time, there will be no trade for us. So the next currency pair, this is the euro against the New Zealand dollar. So this is also a new entrant on our watch list. So we're going to be watching out to see whether we can get some buys. And can see the market has come back in within that region. We had anticipated price was going to do that. In the morning when we're looking at the charts, price was somewhere within this region. It's come back in within there. Let's see if we can get the buyers possibly showing up within this area. And if they do, then we could get some good buying opportunities during the London session. But definitely you will need to manage your trade, higher up, somewhere within this region right here. If the market breaks and holds above that region to the upside, then of course could look for some more conservative buying opportunities at that point in time and see how much more further the market could go. But at least what could be guaranteed, especially if you get the buys here, could be just until somewhere within this region right here. Everything beyond this point is more or less like a bonus. So just make sure that you do some good money management within that region. But also, this region right here is also an area we're going to be watching out for. In case the buyers really struggle to lift off this area, they might need better prices. Those better prices could be hiding somewhere within this area. So just make sure that you do watch out for that. Also remember to watch out for the times that do keep on pointing out. I know we sound like a broken record repeating the times, but it is what it is. So 10, 3, and 4:30, and no matter what you do, always make sure that you do trade with a stop loss. So the next currency pair, this is the New Zealand dollar against the Swiss franc. So this is also a new entrant on our watch list. We're going to be trying to see whether we can get some sells on this one. So do watch out for these three areas right here. So you can see the aggressive right there, conservative. Right now the market has just come back in within here and just bounced off this region to the upside. But the sellers have also been coming in a very weak manner within this region right here. So maybe they might need to regroup. There's a possibility you could find the market maybe attempting to come up, maybe higher, maybe somewhere within this region, maybe somewhere within this area. We also do have some sort of an SNR within this region. You can see that the market came in, held within here for an extended period of time, broke to the downside. You can see some sort of a retest to the probe within there, held to the downside and came back in. But if you look at how the sellers are coming in, this is very weak. So maybe the market might need to end up going up, maybe slightly higher than this. I mean, if you can't get the sells there, you could find that the best sells could be hiding somewhere within here. And of course, if the market comes back in within that area, then we'll definitely be ready for that. Get some sort of a slowdown of the buyers. Then, of course, once the sellers do start to show up, then you could look for the sells to come down to challenge this region. And hopefully, you could actually end up breaking this region to the downside. So make sure that you do watch out for that. And of course, this region at the top, definitely also a region where the market can come back up until when you end up looking at the bigger scale of things, the 1 hour time frame, you can see that the market turned around within this region right here. And, the sellers really look like they've run out of steam within this region. And you could find that maybe the buyers might react. And of course, if they do end up showing up, and giving a very major reaction, then you could find that maybe the market could come back in within this region, especially for the guys who've done the one-on-one. This should be very clear. And of course, if the market comes back in within that area, expect you guys to end up doing justice to those buyers when they do end up showing up within that area. So last but not least, we do have the New Zealand dollar against the Canadian dollar. So for this one, yesterday, we were trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. And you can see the three regions right there that I had pointed out. And in the morning, when we're looking at the charts, price was somewhere within this region here. I had pointed out that based on how the sellers had come in, they were possibly going to attempt to break to the downside. And I did want to see them go to the downside and the market come back into the upside of this region. And you can see that the market really fought within this area, but eventually came back into the upside. And what I illustrated, even if the probe ended up being much bigger than I expected, But generally, this whole area did actually end up probing. There was a hold within here before the buyers did attempt to come up, within this region. And of course, if you got the buy here, you definitely just needed to manage your trade within there. Getting the buys lower within this region was a bit tricky. Fortunately, we couldn't get price coming back in all the way till that area at the bottom. But nonetheless, there was one buy, and that was pretty much it. So for us, for today, buys are off on this one. So we're going to be trying to see whether we can get some sells. So make sure that you do watch out for these three areas right here. So right now the market has pulled back in within this region, maybe some sort of a retest. After it broke this region to the downside, come back in within there. Let's see if we can get the market coming back into the downside of this area. If it does, and hopefully we do get a hold within here, could possibly end up looking for some selling opportunities within here. You could keep your stops, maybe somewhere within there. If you really want to be conservative and you're not a real cowboy on the charts, like some of us, then you could end up having your stops higher up within this area, just hiding behind this seller right here. And then hopefully we could get the market coming back in, within this area right here. But you'll have to watch out for this area. You can see that the market has, reacted off this area a number of times. So you can't just assume that the market is just going to come slicing, through that area to the downside. Then that means that you're living in utopia. You're not being realistic. If you can visually see that the market has reacted off there before, you need to be ready for that. But hopefully when the sellers do end up really coming in within this area, they should be able to slice through this area. But if they can't, and the market comes in within here and actually holds, within this region right here, then I guess at that point in time, you could actually end up doing some money management. But of course, the best bet and what we would ideally want is to see the sellers really come in aggressive, take out this region to the downside. So what I would want to see is hopefully the market holding within here, sellers do end up regrouping, then hopefully we end up getting something like that. So just make sure that you're well aware of that. But also remember the region at the top, the market could also come back in within there, because you can see to some extent, in as much as it's not a perfect range, but you can see that off this area here, and somewhere at the top here, it looks like the market could be in some sort of a range. So there's also a possibility, if the sellers don't really end up coming in within here, they might just end up coming back in within this area. And once again, of course, for the guys who've done the one-on-one, you can easily end up interpreting what's going on within this area, how the buyers went up, sellers came down, the hold. Why is it that we're watching out for that region? We should be able to end up decoding that quite well. So do watch out for that. And of course, for the guys who are new to trading, I know sometimes you may be a bit mixed up. Sometimes you're looking for buy, sells, yet NZDs are on the sell side. What's going on? Remember, currency pairs are always in twos. The counter currency and the base currency pair. So when the NZD is on the left and it's the base currency pair, it's the basis of what we're doing. So for this one, we're going to be selling. So you can't see that NZD CAD, NZD CHF, NZD is on the left. But when it's on the right, like for Euro NZD, this one we're going to be looking for buys because NZD is to the right. So it's the counter currency pair. So Euro is the basis of what we're doing. So by buying the Euro, we're automatically also selling or simultaneously selling the NZD. So make sure that you don't get mixed up. I know we've had not really complaints, but comments of guys getting a bit mixed up about how to end up interpreting things. So always make sure you know which side is the currency pair, so at least in as much as you're watching out for the watch list, you know exactly what you should be doing. So that's pretty much it in terms of the currency pairs. So right now we can move on to the indices and the commodities. So we're going to start off with the NAS 100. And there hasn't been much of a change on these ones. They're all on the buy side. So yesterday we were watching out for buys. You can see the three areas right there that I had pointed out and an illustration of what to expect. In the morning, price was somewhere within here. We did expect price to tap back in within this area. It didn't quite do that, but later on you can see that the market just spiked within this area before taking off to the upside. A bit of a choppy mess was going on this one, and also the Dow Jones. I don't know what the big boys were up to, but the levels are more or less the same. Hopefully today we can end up getting something more clearer. Make sure you don't look for some buying opportunities right now. The market is within a support region, a resistance region. You could find that the sellers could react off there. They've reacted before. You can see the number of reactions there, about 5 times. In as much as they look like the reactions are becoming weaker and weaker, but always give the opposite party the benefit of doubt. So it's better to wait and see if you could get a breach of this region to the upside. If the market breaks and holds above this area, maybe even some attempts to come back into the downside, which end up being unsuccessful, then at that point in time, we could look for some buying opportunities. But for this one, considering the fact that maybe to some extent we could be getting into some messy, choppy range, the best buys still do end up remaining right now as we stand and where price is still back down within this region right here. So just make sure that you do watch out for that. And of course, let's see what happens. I mean, if things don't end up moving during the London session, definitely, most probably things will be moving during the US session. So the next one is the Dow Jones. Yesterday, we were trying to see whether we could get buys. This one was in a bit of a choppy mess, especially during the US session. But you can see that the market was holding within this region during the London session. I did point out that you shouldn't really be looking for buying opportunities within there. You can see that the market came back in within here a number of times. At least if you did end up timing or getting your buying opportunities within here and managing at the top, that would have been much, much better. You can see that the market was in a real fight. Don't know what was going on or what the big boys were up to yesterday. But for this one, the bias is still to try and see whether we can get some buying opportunities. The levels are the same as yesterday. So in as much as there was a major fight that was going on, but the markets haven't really broken any levels. So for us today, same areas. Don't look for the buys now. Wait and see if you could get the market breaking above this region to the upside. Let's give the sellers the benefit of doubt within this area right here. Still could end up reacting and you could find the market coming back within here. You can see that even yesterday, they were quite quiet, especially during the London session. You'd have thought that the sellers are just out, and it's only during the US session that they really ended up showing up, quite aggressively off this area. So you don't really want to end up getting yourself in some sort of a situation. So let's wait and see if we can get the market breaking to the upside and we actually end up getting a nice strong breach to the upside. Market comes back in, maybe even attempts to come to the downside of that region, doesn't holds. At that point in time, if we get something like that, then possibly you could get some good buying opportunities within there. So that calls for a bit of patience. This is not going to happen in one candle. It might not end up happening, in an hour or two. So that means that maybe this whole rollover phase might actually end up taking a whole session. So you will definitely need to be a bit more patient, but you also can't watch out and see what happens. Maybe the sellers could come in during the London session only for the market to be within a good region, during the US session, and we could get some good and proper buying opportunities on that one. So the next one, and the second last currency, the second last thing that we look at each and every morning, this is silver. For silver yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buys. And you can see the things that I had pointed out. So in the morning, when I'm looking at the charts, price was somewhere within this region here. I did point out that the best area to look for the buys was back in within this area right here, because you still did need to watch out for this area. And I did point out this was a region where you could have expected some sort of a reaction of the sellers. Also something quite visible, especially for the guys who have done the one-on-one. You can understand why. You can see that the market just tapped in within that region. We have talked about that. But of course, the best buys were down within this area. You can see like from 430, the market took off to the upside. You didn't need to manage within that area there. And right now, the market is more or less in some sort of a range within this area here. So for us for today, also for this one, no change in terms of the levels. So these are the three areas that we're still going to be watching out for. So for as long as we're holding above the red SNR, the bars still should be to look for the buying opportunities. So let's see what happens within this area. Yesterday, there were quite a number of attempts by the buyers to push the market to the upside of this region, and they just couldn't. So what I would think about this one is that there's a probability and a big probability that the market or these prices within here are not good enough. So we could find the market coming back in maybe lower. So I wouldn't be surprised to see the market come back in within here. Maybe the sellers do actually need to fast come in for the buyers to regroup. You can see that yesterday they even attempted to go lower, trying to fetch better prices within here, but they still couldn't get above this region to the upside more or less. And the market ended up being in some sort of a range. So there's a probability this one could end up coming down low and you could find some proper buys, maybe happening off this region right here. So let's just watch out for that. But of course, if we do end up getting maybe another probe, maybe the markets just need to go lower than this, come back into the downside, maybe that will end up regrouping much better for them, and maybe you could find the market maybe attempting to have another go, maybe taking out this level and definitely this level. But right now, I anticipate there could be a spike that could be happening on this one, just based on the story of what's happening. So let's see what happens on that one. But also remember the indices and the commodities. For as long as we're holding above the red SNR, the buyers should be to look for buying opportunities. The sells will only come into play once the market breaks and holds beneath the red SNR. I mean, if you end up getting some sells, you can take them, but just remember that those are counters. Don't be overly ambitious about them. So last but not least, we do have gold. Now for gold, yesterday the buyers was to try and see whether we could get some buys. You can't clearly see the three regions right here that I had pointed out. So aggressive, conservative, semi-aggressive, conservative here. And in the morning, when we're looking at the charts, price was somewhere within this area right here. And the market just held. I pointed out that maybe you could find the market coming back in within here. Maybe end up even tapping this region right here to come back. Indeed hold. Could have attempted some buys, but we just couldn't get past, this region right here to the upside. And you can see that the buyers came up aggressive. But after that, the sellers really held them within there. Today during the Asian session, they've been able to push that market to the downside. So for this one, we've adjusted the areas slightly. Remember that also gold has never been here ever before. So we're basically trying to map areas as we're moving along. So yesterday we thought the area was here. But today, when we end up looking at the story of what's going on, it seems that the market has more or less formed some sort of a true SNR within this region. This could have been a massive probe to the upside. And right now, the true SNR could be holding within this region, which means that, we have to end up, recalculating our levels and bringing them, to what the story of price is telling us. So you can see that buyers are here, sellers are somewhere within here. The market is now starting to range within here. So for these ones, slight adjustments, but the bias is still to look for buying opportunities. So hopefully we can get the market coming back in somewhere within this region right here. Then we could end up looking for some buying opportunities within here. Of course, watching out for the top of this sort of range that the market has started to form. But of course, if we end up breaking above this region to the upside and the market actually holds within here, I think we could be coming back in to challenge, these sellers who are sitting somewhere within this region. So this could definitely be your next region where you could end up targeting. But also watch out for this region at the bottom right here. I mean, if the buyers do end up not being ready or, being satisfied with the prices within this region, then there's a possibility you could get the price coming back in somewhere within this area right here. So also make sure that you do have that in mind. But also remember, I mean, basically for as long as we're holding above red SNR, then the buyers should be to look for those buying opportunities. It's only when the market actually breaks and holds below this region to the downside, and we actually end up getting a visual hold to the downside. Not the first candle that breaks and immediately you start jumping in on those sales, the way breakout traders do. You could find yourself in a situation. So it's better to wait. You could easily find that the market might even just need to probe within this area, come back in, and after that, give some really good buys, maybe to come back up now even more aggressive, challenging and wanting to take out this level or those sellers to the upside. So just make sure that you watch out for that. And of course, looking for the buys when the market is smack in the middle of these two regions right here, I wouldn't really advise that. You want to get your trades as close as possible to the buyer's region and as far away as possible as the opposite party, so that at least that gives you, some proper and some decent risk to reward. So let's see what happens on everything we've looked at today. Charts look quite promising. Yesterday, charts were quite good. Let's see if today it's going to be a similar thing. In fact, this week, the charts have been very good. So let's see what ends up happening today, even as we get towards the end of the week. So I guess that's pretty much it in terms of everything. On the Q&A, not really seeing much. So I'm seeing Alan there saying thank you. Karibu sana. Keep up the good work, Alan. Let's keep pushing. And I guess that's pretty much it. When we don't see any questions, it's either one of two things. Either everything is perfectly clear or no one understood anything I said. But like I always say, I know you guys are smart, so you definitely got the gist of what we've been discussing. And of course, you can definitely find this information on YouTube as well. In case anything is not clear, you can feel free to run through the rebroadcast of this as well. So I guess we'll see you guys tomorrow. Of course, if you do get any trades, feel free to send them in to us. Guys, we'd be more than happy to see what you guys are up to. Remember, the AMP September class is open. We're also going to be having a webinar exclusive for the masterclass, guys, I think on Tuesday next week. So subject to confirmation in terms of time, but hopefully I think Tuesday next week we should be having an exclusive webinar for the guys in the masterclass, discuss a couple of things. So for the guys in the masterclass, make sure that you do watch out for that. So I guess we'll see you guys tomorrow. And as always, may the peace be with you. Cheers, guys, and bye for now. God bless.